The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist.
What if I told you that the guilt you feel every time you forget the reusable bag at the grocery store was engineered? What if I told you that the anxiety you feel when you throw the plastic bottle in the wrong bin was designed? The crushing weight of saving our planet was deliberately placed on your shoulders through one of the most successful marketing psychological operations in history. Let's start with the number 1971, the year that everything changed. The year that a Native American chief shed a tear on national television watching litter destroy his ancestral lands. That commercial became an icon for the environmental movement. It won awards, it made us change our behavior, it made us feel responsible. But there's just one problem. That commercial was created and marketed by companies that manufactured plastic, the companies that were flooding the world with non-biodegradable plastic. But this wasn't just clever marketing, no. This was the beginning of something much more bigger and insidious. A masterclass in psychological manipulation that will last decades. So successful that even now as you're watching this, you might be feeling a bit defensive. You might be thinking that we should recycle, that it is good to recycle. It is our responsibility. And you're right. That's what makes this trick so brilliant. They didn't tell us to stop caring. They didn't deny climate change. This is what makes it so far more insidious and worse. They weaponize our conscience. Let's fast forward to 2004. British Petroleum, one of the world's largest oil companies, spends $250 million in marketing to teach us about our carbon footprint. Just think about that for a second. This is the world's largest oil company responsible for spills like the Deepwater Horizon, teaching us about our carbon footprint. The 1970s, they made us feel guilty about litter. The 1980s, they taught us about personal recycling. The 1990s, they introduced us to our carbon footprint. The 2000s, they sold us reusable bags. 2010s, they shamed us about plastic straws. And the 2020s, they're making us feel guilty about our digital carbon footprint. And here's where it gets painful. You ready for some numbers? Just 100 companies in the world are responsible for 70% of global emissions since 1988. The US military produces far more pollution than 140 countries combined. Only 9% of all plastic ever produced has been recycled. 20 companies produce 55% of all the single-use plastics. Just think about it. When was the last time you felt guilty about your environmental impact? Yesterday? This week? This morning? Now ask yourself, when was the last time you felt guilty about theirs? They didn't just shift responsibility, they shifted our emotional response. They transformed our anger into guilt, our outrage into shame. And they took our most powerful weapon, which was our collective fury, and turned it inwards. And here's the darkest part. The more guilty we feel, the less we fight back. The more we focus on our environmental impact, the less we question about theirs. Their systematic destruction of our planet. They didn't just shift the blame, they neutralized the resistance. So what can we do with this knowledge? Well, first we need to understand that carrying this guilt about personal environmental impact was never our burden to bear alone. Your reusable water bottle does matter, but their industrial waste matters a lot more. Your shorter showers do matter. Your recycling matters, but their continued production of non-recyclable plastics matters 10 times more. Second, we need to reclaim our right to be angry. Not at ourselves, no, not at each other, but at the systems and the corporations that engineered this grand deception. And most importantly, we need to realize that something they never wanted us to understand. That moment we stop feeling guilty is the moment we start getting dangerous. So here's my question to you. Now that you've been manipulated, now that you know that you've been manipulated, what are you going to do with that anger? What are you going to do with that knowledge? The greatest con in the history of the world wasn't about making you feel responsible. It was about making you forget who really was responsible.